The Galactic Council chamber was filled with tension. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in silence, waiting for the decision that could change the fate of the universe. The war between the Zorath Dominion and the Vicari Alliance had raged for decades, destroying countless worlds. Neither side could win. Now they both turned to humanity, the only power that had remained neutral. The human delegation had not yet arrived. A long, empty table stood in the center of the room, a reminder that Earth had not made its choice. Some council members whispered among themselves. Others watched the entrance with nervous eyes. They must choose. A Zorath general growled, his sharp teeth flashing. They cannot hide forever. Their hesitation is weakness, a Vicari warlord hissed. If they do not decide, we will force their hand. The council leader, an ancient being with deep golden eyes, raised a hand for silence. We will wait, he said. Earth is unpredictable. But when they choose, the balance of the galaxy will shift forever. Minutes stretched into hours. No humans arrived. Then, without warning, a small device on the table activated. A holographic projection appeared. A human figure, tall and calm, dressed in the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. His expression was unreadable. Greetings, members of the Galactic Council, the human said. Earth has received your request. We understand that the war must end. We understand that you wish for us to pick a side. The room fell completely silent. Every representative leaned forward. But humanity does not serve, the man continued. We do not choose between tyrants and conquerors. We have watched your war, your destruction, and your endless hunger for power. And we have made our decision. A ripple of unease spread through the council chamber. Some beings exchanged worried glances. The Zorath general narrowed his eyes. And what is your decision? He demanded. The human's expression remained calm. We are watching, he said simply. That is all. The hologram vanished. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Some representatives sighed in relief. Others clenched their fists in frustration. The council leader's golden eyes remained fixed on the empty table. What does it mean? A younger diplomat asked. Are they refusing to get involved? The Vicari warlord bared his fangs. No, he muttered. It means something far worse. It means we have no idea what they will do. Far from the council chamber, hidden in the darkness of space, a fleet of human warships remained motionless. Their weapons were cold, their engines silent. They did not attack. They did not retreat. They simply waited. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. The moment the human transmission ended, diplomats shouted over one another, voices filled with anger, confusion, and fear. Some demanded action. Others insisted on patience. The humans had given no clear answer, just a warning wrapped in silence. The Zorath general slammed his clawed hand onto the table. This is unacceptable. They cannot remain neutral. The Vicari warlord hissed, his eyes narrowing. You are a fool. Humans are never truly neutral. If they are watching, then they are waiting for something. We must discover what it is before they act. Across the chamber, the council leader remained quiet, golden eyes lost in thought. He had seen many wars. He had seen empires rise and fall. But there was something different about humanity. Something unsettling. We must understand their plan. The council leader finally spoke. Humanity never moves without purpose. If they refuse to take a side, then perhaps they are choosing their own path. The room fell silent. Choosing their own path. That could mean anything. A trembling voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It belonged to a young diplomat, a species with translucent skin that shimmered under the bright lights. There are rumors, he said hesitantly. The Zorath general turned his gaze on the diplomat. Rumors? He repeated. The young diplomat swallowed hard. Yes, there are whispers that human fleets have been seen at the edges of the known galaxy, that their ships have been entering abandoned star systems and vanishing without a trace. We thought they were avoiding war, But what if they are preparing for something else? The council leader's eyes darkened. "Gather intelligence," he ordered. "Find out where the humans have gone." Within hours, spies, mercenaries, and informants spread across the galaxy, hunting for signs of human movement. But the truth would not come easily. Far from the council's reach, hidden in the depths of space, the human fleet remained motionless. Dozens of warships, their designs sleek and efficient, floated like silent predators in the void. Their commanders stood at attention, waiting for orders that had not yet come. Deep inside the flagship, Admiral Marcus Steele watched the stars. His face was expressionless, but his mind was racing. "They're growing desperate," a voice spoke from behind him. Steele turned to see Ambassador Catherine Voss stepping onto the bridge. Unlike him, she was dressed in the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, her long coat lined with silver trim. But she had the same sharp look in her eyes as he did. "They don't understand," Steele said, his voice calm. "They think we're hesitating. They don't realize we've already made our choice." Voss crossed her arms. "And what is that choice?" Steele exhaled slowly. "We do not pick sides," he said. "We end wars." A heavy silence settled over them. Voss nodded. "So it's decided, then." Steele turned back toward the massive viewport, staring into the darkness of space. "It was decided the moment they asked us to choose." On the other side of the galaxy, the Council's search for answers continued. But they would not like what they found. The Galactic Council was growing impatient. Days had passed since their spies were sent to track human movements, yet the reports that returned only deepened their confusion. "Humans are not gathering forces near any allied planets," one spy reported. "Their fleets are not reinforcing anyone. They are not even protecting their own colonies." Another report followed. "Their trade routes remain untouched. They are not building supply lines or reinforcing defenses. They do nothing, yet they are everywhere." The council leader listened in silence. The others in the chamber were restless. The Zorath general snarled. "What kind of game are they playing? If they refuse to fight, why do they move their warships in the shadows?" The Vicari warlord leaned forward. "I told you before, humans never act without reason. They do not move for nothing. We are missing something." The council leader steepled his fingers. "What about the abandoned systems? Did they find anything?" One of the informants hesitated before speaking. "There is something strange happening." All eyes turned toward him. "Humans have entered multiple dead star systems," he explained. "Places where no ships travel, where nothing is left but ruins of old wars. And yet their ships remain there, hidden." The chamber was silent. No one could understand what humanity was doing. Then a voice cut through the tension. It was not loud, but it sent a chill through everyone in the room. "They are waiting." It was the HFY ambassador, an ancient species known for their long lifespans and deep knowledge of war. The others turned toward him. The council leader narrowed his eyes. "Explain." The HFY ambassador's deep black eyes reflected no light. "Humans have seen our wars before. They have watched as empires fought, as species destroy themselves. They do not fight wars as we do. They do not take sides. They do not rush into battle." He looked at the assembled leaders. "They wait," he said again. "And when the war is at its worst, when both sides are weak and desperate, that is when they strike." A cold feeling spread through the room. The Zorath general scoffed, though there was uncertainty in his voice. "Nonsense. No species fights like that. No warrior waits while others die." The HFY ambassador turned his head slightly. "Then you do not understand humans." The council leader took a slow breath. "What do they gain from this strategy?" The HFY ambassador closed his eyes. "Control." A shiver ran through the chamber. The war between the two great factions of the galaxy had raged for decades. No side could win without suffering massive losses. But if humanity entered the war at the right moment, when both sides were at their weakest, they would not be choosing a side. They would be ending the war on their terms. The realization struck the council like a thunderbolt. The humans were not neutral. They were predators. Far away, deep in the void, Admiral Marcus Steele stood on the command deck of the human flagship. His officers waited for his orders. In front of him, a holographic map of the galaxy flickered. The war zones were marked in red. Every battle, every weakness. He turned to his second-in-command. How much longer until the breaking point? The officer checked the data. If the war continues at its current pace, less than 2 months. Steele nodded. Then we wait. From the darkness, humanity watched. And soon, the galaxy would understand the cost of underestimating them. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. The weight of the realization pressed down on every member. The humans were not choosing a side. They were not fighting for power, territory, or even revenge. They were waiting for the galaxy to weaken itself. The Vicari warlord slammed his fist on the table. This cannot be allowed. If humanity strikes when we are at our weakest, they will claim everything. The Zorath general's claws twitched. We must act now. We must force their hand before it is too late. The Exilary ambassador remained still. And what will you do? Attack them directly. You do not understand what you are asking for. The council leader exhaled. We need to know more. We need to understand their true plan before we make a move. He turned to the intelligence officer. Send out more informants. I want to know where every human fleet is positioned, every abandoned system they have entered, every move they make. The officer hesitated. With respect, we have already tried. They'd vanish the moment we look too closely. Their ships slid past our scanners. They operate like ghosts. A chill settled over the chamber. The humans were always watching, yet no one could see them. Deep in the void, where no light reached, the human fleet remained hidden. Admiral Marcus Steele stood on the bridge of the HSS Revenant, the flagship of the hidden armada. The stars stretched out before them, cold and unfeeling. The war between the galactic factions raged on, but it was not humanity's war to fight. Not yet. His second-in-command, Commander Elise Carter, approached. The council is becoming restless. They know something is coming, but they don't know what. Steele smirked. Good. Let them fear the unknown. Carter hesitated. Sir, if we wait too long, someone might figure out our real plan. Steele turned to the massive display screen in front of him. A map of the war zones flickered with real-time updates. Red dots marked ongoing battles. Blue lines showed retreat paths. Yellow zones were neutral territories. But there was one area, a black void in the map, where no signals were detected. The dead systems. Steele's voice was calm. They already fear us, but they still don't understand what we've been doing in those systems. Carter swallowed. The war will reach its peak soon. Both factions will be too exhausted to resist. Are we prepared for what happens next? Steele's eyes darkened. We are humanity. We were never unprepared. He tapped the console. The black void on the map flickered, revealing hidden formations, warships, stations, and something else. Something massive. The real weapon humanity had been building. Back at the Galactic Council, panic was spreading. Reports from the dead systems were sparse, but one thing was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding. A fleet had been detected moving out of the void. A fleet larger than any the galaxy had seen before. The Zorath general rose from his seat. They have been building their forces in the dark. We were blind while they prepared for war. The Vicari warlord clenched his jaw. This was their plan all along. Let us fight. Let us bleed. And when we are too weak to resist, they will take everything. The council leader stood. His voice was steady, but his hands were clenched into fists. Then we must prepare for the worst. The chamber filled with murmurs of fear and anger. Humanity was coming. And the galaxy was not ready. The Galactic Council chamber was no longer a place of calm discussion. It had become a battlefield of fear and desperation. Representatives of every major species shouted over each other, their voices filled with panic. The war between the Vekari and the Zorath had already weakened the galaxy, but now something far more dangerous loomed over them. Humanity's fleet was on the move. The council leader slammed his hand against the table. Enough. His voice echoed through the massive chamber, forcing the others to fall silent. His usually composed expression was now tense. We must face the reality before us. Humanity has spent years in the shadows. We do not know their true strength. We do not know their full numbers. But we do know one thing. They have chosen this moment to act. The auxiliary ambassador, whose species had always relied on strategy rather than brute force, leaned forward. Perhaps we are seeing this the wrong way. Humanity has always been unpredictable. What if they are not here for war? The Zorath general bared his fangs. Do not be naive. They are predators. They waited for us to grow weak before striking. There is no other reason for their silence all these years. The Vekari warlord growled. Then we must strike first. The council leader shook his head. Strike with what? Our fleets are in ruins. Our worlds are bleeding. And they have been waiting for this moment. He turned toward the intelligence officer. Do we have any updates on their movements? The officer hesitated, his face pale. Yes, but I don't think you're going to like it. A large hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber, displaying the known galactic map. The war zones were already marked, showing the destruction caused by the conflict between the Vekari and Zorath. But now, red markers appeared at the edges of the map, human fleet formations. The dots multiplied. More and more signals lit up across the galactic borders, spreading like wildfire. It was no longer just a single fleet. It was an armada. The auxiliary ambassador's breath caught. How could they build this in secret? The officer's voice was hollow. We don't know. The council leader's fingers dug into the table. What is their trajectory? The officer swallowed hard. Everywhere. Silence fell over the room. The Zorath general clenched his fists. They are surrounding us. The Vekari warlord's claws scraped against the table. It's an invasion. The auxiliary ambassador's eyes narrowed. No, it's a demonstration of power. They want us to know they could invade. The council leader exhaled slowly. Then the question is, what do they want? Deep in the void, Human Fleet Command. Admiral Marcus Steele stood at the command center of the HSS Revenant, the flagship of humanity's hidden armada. The war map stretched before him, showing the entire galaxy at a glance. Humanity's ships had positioned themselves in key sectors, ensuring no faction could make a move without being noticed. Commander Elise Carter stood beside him. The council is panicking, just as expected. Steele smirked. Good. Let them feel what we felt when they abandoned us. Carter frowned. But what now, sir? Do we wait for them to come to us? Steele's expression darkened. No, we make them an offer. Carter raised an eyebrow. An offer? Steele turned to the massive display screen where the Galactic Council's headquarters was marked. They have two choices. Either they acknowledge what they did to humanity and make things right, or they prepare for the consequences. Carter exhaled. And if they choose war? Steele's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. Then we remind them why they should have never pushed us away. He tapped a command on the console. Across the galaxy, humanity's ships began to send out a single unified message. It was time for the Council to answer for their past. The Galactic Council had never faced anything like this before. Their enemies had always been predictable. Empires seeking power, warlords craving bloodshed, pirates hungry for resources. But humanity was different. They were silent, watching, waiting. And now, they had spoken. The message had been clear. Humanity demanded acknowledgement of the past, the betrayal, the exile, the Council's decision to cast them aside. But the response from the Council was divided. Some saw this as a chance for peace. Others saw it as the prelude to war. In the Grand Chamber, the council leader stood before the assembled representatives, his face grim. We must decide our course of action. Humanity has given us an ultimatum. If we choose wrong, we may not live to regret it. The Zorath general growled. We cannot bow to their demands. We have ruled this galaxy for centuries. We do not bend. The auxiliary ambassador shook his head. This is not about bending. It is about survival. Do you not see? They do not need to attack us. They have already won. Their fleet is everywhere. They control the major trade routes. Our own fleets are exhausted from the war. If they cut us off, we will collapse without a single shot fired. The Vicari warlord slammed his fist onto the table. Then let us strike now, before they can act. The intelligence officer's voice was barely above a whisper. That would be suicide. All eyes turned toward him. He swallowed hard, his hand shaking as he activated the holographic display. A new set of red markers appeared on the galactic map. More human fleets, more warships, more dreadnoughts. The council chamber went silent. The officer's voice wavered. They weren't showing us everything before. Our latest scans indicate that their true numbers are far greater than we estimated. They didn't just build a fleet. He turned to face the council leader, his eyes filled with horror. They built an entire war machine. The Zorath general's claws clenched. That's impossible. No species could develop this much power in such a short time. The auxiliary ambassador's voice was hollow. Unless they were always preparing for this moment. The council leader exhaled sharply. Then we have one choice. He turned to the communication officer. Send a message to humanity. SS Revenant, Human Fleet Command. The transmission from the Galactic Council was received within seconds. Admiral Steele stood before the massive screen as the council leader's face appeared. The alien leader's expression was carefully neutral, but there was no mistaking the tension in his eyes. Admiral Steele, the Galactic Council has considered your request. We are prepared to negotiate. Steele leaned forward slightly, his presence dominating the room. Negotiate. He let the word hang in the air. We didn't ask for negotiations. We asked for acknowledgement, for justice. The council leader hesitated. We acknowledge that mistakes were made. Steele's lips curled into a cold smile. Mistakes. He stepped forward, his voice turning sharp. You exiled us. You abandoned us in the dark. You left us to die. He straightened. And now that we have returned, stronger than ever, you call it a mistake. The council leader's throat tightened. He knew, at that moment, that humanity was not here to bargain. They were here to remind the galaxy of what had been done to them. The auxiliary ambassador stepped into the frame. Then tell us, Admiral, what do you want? Steele's eyes burned with cold fury. Everything you took from us. The council chamber on the other end fell into stunned silence. Steele continued, his voice steady, unyielding. We want every right, every resource, and every position of power that was denied to us. We want full control over our own destiny, without your interference. And above all, he leaned forward. We want the galaxy to remember. The council leader inhaled sharply. And if we refuse? Steele's voice was like ice. Then we remind you why you should have never cast us out. The transmission ended. Silence filled the human command center. Commander Carter exhaled. Do you think they'll accept? Steele turned away from the screen, his gaze distant. It doesn't matter. He turned back to the war map, where humanity's fleets stood poised like a blade against the galaxy's throat. Because either way, they will never forget us again. The silence before war was always the loudest. Across the galaxy, species waited in fear. Every major power knew that the humans had given their final warning. The Galactic Council had days, maybe hours, to decide whether they would bow to humanity's demands or face consequences no one could predict. The council chamber was in chaos. The alien leaders shouted over each other, their voices filled with fear and desperation. They will not wait forever. The auxiliary ambassadors shouted, if we do nothing, they will act. The Zorath general's voice was thick with anger. And if we give in, what then? We hand them power over us. The Vicari warlord bared his fangs. Perhaps that is better than extinction. The council leader raised his hand, silencing the room. His voice was tired, heavy. The truth is clear. We thought ourselves rulers of the stars. But humanity, they have become something else. They are no longer the exiles we abandoned. The room fell silent. The council leader looked at the holographic display. Hundreds, no, thousands, of human warships filled the galactic map. And yet, they had not attacked. Not yet. He closed his eyes and made his decision. Send the message. SS Revenant, Human Fleet Command. The response from the Galactic Council arrived in minutes. Admiral Steele stood before the screen, unreadable as the council leader's face appeared. We accept. A single moment of silence passed. Then Steele exhaled slowly. Good. The council leader hesitated. And will this be enough? Steele's expression did not change. That depends. The alien leader swallowed hard. On what? Steele leaned forward slightly. His voice was steady, cold. On whether your people remember this lesson. The screen went dark. Commander Carter stepped beside Steele. So, it's over. Steele's gaze remained fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. For now. Carter frowned. But they'll never trust us. Steele turned to him, a small smirk on his lips. Good. Outside, the human fleet began to move. They had proven their power without firing a shot. And now, the galaxy would never forget.